Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning into this webinar to discuss a topic I'm always interested in discussing, data literacy. My name is Madison Lang, and I lead our analytics and machine learning practice at Xeris, a data and tech consulting company. When I first start to talk about this topic and the education I do around it, sometimes, especially when discussing with fellow data and analytics leaders, there can be this assumption that everyone, or at least most everyone, has a basic understanding of how to read and interpret data and statistics. One of my goals in advocating for data literacy education is to first make more people aware that there is a gap in fundamental data skills that needs to be addressed. And second, to remove some of the stigma that many employees feel today when they don't have this foundational understanding. I think that we all would agree that speaking data is really becoming a necessary language in today's marketplace, and we're all striving to become data driven organizations. So, as we're working through this, I want to challenge all of us, especially data and analytics leaders, to invest in training our organization as a whole on the basics of reading, interpreting, and questioning the analytics we're providing. You don't even need to be at work these days to see how data is truly everywhere. It's almost impossible right now to not see the COVID-19 headlines with the latest stats and figures around cases and testing and death tolls and steps for reopening. There are daily updated dashboards and lots of reports and news conferences. Many of the media sources are simply stating the facts and allowing consumers of that information to make decisions on what they should do to be safe and responsible during this time. Many other sources are also using some of these data points as evidence for backing their opinions on what our country should or shouldn't do moving forward. To be clear, the point of this presentation is in no way to make any stances on what should or should not be done as we continue to navigate this coronavirus. I'm also not going to say that it is wrong to use the data we have available to us to back the decisions we make for our families and our workplaces. That's exactly what many of us are striving to do for our companies, which is to provide data and metrics that can be used to make the best possible decisions. What I do hope, though, is that this talk can show you how this coronavirus and how this overwhelming amount of information can be a great representation of what our industries and our employees are facing every single day, and with this heightened amount of data we have available to us. So let's talk about how our society as a whole is equipped to form opinions on the data we are constantly consuming, and about the coronavirus and other aspects of our work and our life. So let's start with, what is data literacy? Data literacy is the ability to read, work with, analyze, and communicate with data. Many leading research firms and analytics experts are calling for data literacy to be a leading initiative if you want your analytics projects to be successful. This really can't be an afterthought, yet many are not aware or considering the impact this is going to have downstream. Gartner predicts that by 2023, data literacy will be formally included in over 80% of data and analytics strategies and change management programs. Data literacy needs to be our new readiness factor on our journey to becoming data-driven. Being data literate is something that is for all business roles, not just analytics teams or technical resources. And this is for all business roles in all industries, regardless of company size or geography. And we have some work to do to get everyone able to speak this language of data. Click, one of the leading data visualization and dashboarding tools, has launched a dedicated data literacy project because of their belief in how important this is. Through their research, they have found that only 21% of the global workforce is fully confident in their data literacy skills. Additionally, 61% report that they feel overwhelmed by data and that this lack of understanding has contributed to workplace stress. Now, couple that with this statistic. So, Gartner predicts that more than 50% of all investment in business analytics is moving towards self-service and discovery style technologies. Translation, we're putting more and more data responsibility on the people that are falling into the 61% that feel completely overwhelmed by it. While we've been trying to offload reporting responsibilities from our IT teams, we're putting data, arguably one of our most valuable resources, into the hands of colleagues who have not been fully equipped to manipulate, interpret it, or make sound conclusions from it. Maybe that's why Accenture reports that only 32% of these data initiatives are delivering tangible and measurable value, and only 27% of organizations are able to produce highly actionable insights. But what I've found so encouraging as people are confronted with this COVID-19 data is that they have the ability to learn these skills. We've just never been very good at investing time and resources into meeting business users where they are, with solid reasoning and resources to set them up for success. Coronavirus data has opened people's minds to concepts like exponential growth and mathematical models, and questioning assumptions in the data that underlies these models. People have become passionate about this data. How can we bottle up this passion and translate it into something that can impact all of our companies? I thought this was a good way of looking at it, and this is from Professor Lauren Witt from the University of Pennsylvania. It's summarizing what we need to do to make our data initiatives successful and demonstrate an ROI. First, there's culture. As we all have learned, starting to transform your organization's culture takes time, but it is a huge determining factor if these initiatives are going to be successful. Having top-down support is crucial, especially when getting projects off the ground. Second, there's data access. You've probably all already tried to move forward with improving data access. As we stated before, 50% of the money spent on data projects right now is going towards self-service and discovery methods. And this is, for many, seems to be what will solve a majority of your data problems, right? If only I could just give everyone a dashboard. But I think this third bubble is oftentimes overlooked, and it's around improving skills. I would argue that this really needs to have a data literacy component, and it's not just about hiring data scientists or more data engineers and cloud engineers. We need to improve skills across all of our users, technical and non-technical alike, especially if we're wanting to give them more and more data. So let's take a look at a few quick examples of how I've seen this tangibly play out with COVID-19 data. Data literacy is not about gaining a ton of math skills or technical skills. It's not about being able to, it's more just about, so it's not about like learning a bunch of equations or coding skills. What it's really about is being able to interpret the analytics that are provided to us, understand the context that it is in, and make sound conclusions from it. So let's take a look at some examples. So one of the basics that we introduce when teaching data literacy is understanding your data set. What's included, what's not included in the data that we're analyzing? Where did this data come from? You can think of this as understanding your denominator. As most know, the denominator is the bottom number in a fraction that represents the whole. So we can also think of this as your total. In the case of COVID-19, we are constantly hearing about the total number of positive confirmed cases. This is widely used, and you can see it in another very accessible dashboard that is updated daily from Johns Hopkins, and it displays these figures by country. So there's nothing wrong with reporting this number or knowing this number or quoting what this number is, but our goal is for users to be able to take data like this in real life and at work and understand the context of that data point. So in this case, a confirmed case means a positive test result. As we all know, in many parts of the world, there has been a limited supply of tests, and definitely here within the US, leaving many people who may even have symptoms or want to get tested unable to do so. This could have the effect of this number being lower than what is truly represented in the population. Also, as as it has been reported by many reputable sources, there seems to be asymptomatic carriers of this disease. Without widespread testing, regardless of symptoms being present, it is going to be very hard to get a clear understanding of just how many people were truly infected. This should then cause us to similarly question any metrics going forward that establish this count as its denominator, such as recovery rate. Something else we've realized as we're exposed to this data is that these number of confirmed cases seem to be going up. Well, as we're all quickly realizing and then starting to make our arguments around based off of, is that as more and more testing is being done, especially here in the US, there are going to be more positive cases. So one option is to instead look at the positive test rate. Let's talk a little bit about rates. Rates are a comparison of two numbers, kind of like a fraction. So if one number is changing drastically, before you make too many decisions, it's wise to question if any business processes have changed that might be causing the fluctuation. In this case, the increase in testing. By dividing the number of positive cases by the total number of cases, instead of simply looking at the daily number of positive confirmed cases, it could help take into consideration the increase in the number of tests being performed, which was a big process change compared to the beginning of this pandemic. But even rates should be thoughtfully considered and questioned. Even though testing continues to increase, for when there is a limited supply, it would be wise for us to consider what our sample population is. So one of the first things you learn in statistics way back in elementary school is that when you're doing a survey, you want to use as random of a sample population as possible. Well, in the case of COVID tests, when there are not enough tests to randomly sample an entire population, they tend to sample hotspot areas or areas of highest concern. With COVID, that included healthcare workers and hospitalized individuals, cruise ships, meatpacking plants, long-term care facilities. As I've stated before, this is in no way saying that this is not what should have been done with our limited test supply, but it's important as an informed citizen to understand who is being tested and how that might influence the data we're seeing. Knowing that those who are more likely to be exposed are the ones being tested in comparison to the general population could make us reconsider that positive test rate and what that really meant and what that was really representative of. I feel like I couldn't go through a talk on this subject without mentioning Flatten the Curve. I know we are getting towards the end of our time, but I loved how widespread this concept got. And while we could dive into the math behind this exponential curve, I think what's more interesting is that many people did, and many of whom would not have considered themselves math or data people at all. This is an example of a mathematical model. Models are meant to try to generalize experiences that happen in real life. COVID-19 has shown the value of being able to do this well, and it's also shown people the importance of the data that underlies the model. The assumptions made and the data that it's based off of will determine how well the model will represent reality. So with that, if you're interested in how you can start equipping your colleagues to be data literate, we have a 4-part academy that focuses on the foundations of data, like why we need to be aware of averages and the difference between correlation and causation. We also give some visualization best practices so that you can make meaningful and readable reports. And we cover data storytelling, which is around revealing the data decision-making process and how to translate the stats that we have and the metrics that we create into actionable insights. If you're interested in knowing more, feel free to reach out. But with that, thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them my way with the contact information that's up on your screen. Thanks so much and have a good day.